Hey guys, Jim McDonald. This is my channel, Dad's Daking Out. Welcome to it. Today I want to talk to you about mail. Mail is always fun to get. Now, when I was in the Marine Corps back in '94, that was about the only way to really communicate was through mail and payphones. And payphones, you could buy a $20 phone card for about 16 minutes worth of talk. And, you know, there was maybe a 2-minute warning on it that you're getting ready to run out, and then it was dead, died, nothing else. Had to go stand in line at a payphone. A lot of guys like to call on Sunday night, so that was like if you're gonna go on Sunday night, you're gonna wait in line. They were just nasty payphones. They all smelled like cigarettes, and they were torn up, and they were just gross. But that was your only option, so you did what you had. But for my kids, before I left and went overseas, I self-addressed and self-stamped a whole bunch of these little envelopes. And I gave all of them 4 or 5 each, and I put a piece of paper inside for them to write on. Now, there was a method to my madness. One, I wanted to get letters from my kids. So I bribed them, and I said, every time you send me a letter and I get it, I will send your mom $5 for you. But I also wanted them to practice their penmanship. I wanted them to learn how to formulate a thought, you know, put it on paper, tell me about your day, write me a letter. And my daughter, she puts a little more effort into it. My son, he's distracted by video games and God knows what else. But, you know, he would write too, but it usually took a little nudge from me when I would talk to him. Hey, don't forget, you're going to get money if you write me a letter. So, you know, bribery can be a good thing, but it's a good thing to do. And I think even if I was in town, dads, that if you're divorced and your kids live in a different town or, you know, a different state, do the letter thing. Have them put their thoughts on paper. I like to save these and show them to my kids. I've got little cards that they've made me, you know, 10, 15 years ago, whatever, some of them. And, you know, I used to make these little books. Well, not used to, I did. But I would take a notebook for each one of my kids, and I would write letters to them, write notes to them. I did it for, years. Sometimes they were over 5 to 7 years old, and I would put stuff like this, like when they would send me a letter, or, you know, my daughter would make me a little note like that, I would put it in the book, and I would write the date and when I received it, and I gave them to them before I left. And I had pictures, I had letters I would write to them, stuff from, you know, 5th grade graduation, what have you, just little mementos and, you know, things that I thought were fun and important that I thought they might enjoy seeing. And I would write them notes and, you know, just talk about stuff we did that they didn't know I was writing about. And when I gave them those books, I gave them 4 or 5 letters each so they could fill them out and send them back. So that's another thing I would recommend doing is, one, give them some letters and help them learn how to formulate a thought, put it on paper, and write you a letter. And 2, the little books, you know, just get a notebook. It's really simple. Just start writing, put the date on there, or write them a note. It's like a journal for them. And my kids loved them. They loved them. And I'm hoping it's something they'll hold on to for a long time. I mean, the books sat, you know, flush, but by the time I gave them to them, they were sitting like that because they had so much stuff. I had stuffed inside of those things, pictures, awards that they had given, something they drew me, I would put it in the little book. So it's like a gigantic memory book for them to hold on to. And, you know, there might be some gaps in between. Sometimes there was a year where I would just forget to write them. But the point is, I completely filled the books up and gave them to them before I left. And I think that was one of the coolest things they had to look like, go back and remember Dad with. And I'm, you know, not remembering me like I'm never coming home, but something they could look at when they're sad or they're lonely or they're missing me. they can whip that little book out and read through all the stuff I wrote, hand wrote. Sometimes I would just type a letter on the computer when I was at work and print that sucker out and tape it to it. There's all kinds of stuff in those little books. So that's something that you can do for your kids. You know, I talked about the divorce. I never badmouthed mom, because that's not me, and that's not what I'm going to do. But I would talk about stuff I was struggling with and stuff they were struggling with. It was just an open dialogue from me to them. So think about that. It's a good way to keep in touch with your kiddos, and it's something they can look at forever and ever. So that's just one more option for you to keep in touch with your kids. Teach them something along the way, maybe give them a little cash, you know, bribe them, whatever you want to call it. It's all good. But even if you're at home in the States, down the street, or if you're like me and you're half a world away, this is a great way for kids to keep in touch. Something I would recommend that you do with your kiddos anyway. So if you've got any ideas that you want to share on how you keep in touch with your kids, either from other countries or down the street, like I said, just because you're not living in the same house doesn't mean you can't stay in contact. One of my buddies likes to make videos and puts them on his YouTube channel, only his kids can see them. That's a good idea as well. So if you've got any ideas, throw them in the comments down below. If you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate it if you give me a like and a subscribe so we can keep this channel going. And I'm open to your suggestions. Thanks. Hope you guys have a great day.